get this. The UK government is demanding that Apple, like, hand over the keys to its encrypted cloud backups.
Yeah, and we've seen this before, haven't we?
Oh, yeah.
In other countries, definitely. Like Australia, China, places like that where governments have wanted to be able to get into encrypted data.
Okay, so the UK wants in, but what exactly are they asking for?
Well, they're using something called a technical capability notice. And it's part of their Investigatory Powers Act.
Okay.
So basically what it means is that Apple has to create a way for them to bypass encryption on cloud backups.
So not just for people in the UK, right?
It's global.
So even if I'm sitting here not in the UK, my data is still at risk.
Exactly, and that's what's making this such a big deal. It sets a precedent.
Oh, yeah, I see what you...
Other countries could follow suit easily.
So it's like if you have a key to one house, you can suddenly get into every house in the neighborhood.
Exactly. Encryption is supposed to protect our privacy,
Right.
our security. It's like a lock on our information.
But isn't there some level of access that's needed, for the government?
Well, that's the whole debate, isn't it?
Yeah.
Targeted access with warrants.
Right.
You
Right, for specific people.
Exactly, for specific accounts.
Right.
That's one thing.
But creating this, universal backdoor?
That changes everything. Think about it. If companies know that governments can force them to bypass encryption whenever they want, why would they even invest in security?
Right, they wouldn't bother.
No, they wouldn't.
So basically, the UK is asking Apple to, build a house with a giant welcome mat for, any government agency to just walk right in.
I mean, it's not quite that simple.
Okay.
But yeah, you're getting the idea. This demand really undermines the whole concept of encryption.
Yeah.
It really erodes the trust that we put in tech companies, to protect our stuff.
Absolutely. And this Washington Post article that we're looking at, it suggests that Apple's going to fight back.
Yeah.
They might even pull their cloud services from the UK entirely rather than compromise everyone's security.
And that brings up another point.
What's that?
Some people are wondering if Apple already has a backdoor.
Interesting.
Specifically in their GPU silicon.
Okay.
So could this be the UK just trying to access something they think already exists?
Ooh, that's a good point. Conspiracy theories abound, right? And another thing I saw in the Slashdot comments was that thanks to Snowden, the NSA probably already has access.
Right.
So is this more about control than capability?
It could be. It's a good question.
Yeah.
Is this a power play, to exert more control over data, even if they already have access?
Yeah, that makes sense. And we can't forget about the impact on users, right?
Oh, absolutely.
What happens to all that data that people have stored in the cloud?
All those photos, documents, everything.
Exactly. This is a big deal for everyday users.
And that's what we're going to talk about next.
Okay.
What are the potential outcomes here, and what can you, the listener, do to protect yourself?
Stay tuned. #TTS The Deep Dive, episode 2025-0207, part 2 of 3. Okay, so we've said the stakes are high, but what could actually happen if the UK wins this thing?
Well, the Washington Post article, they lay out a few different scenarios. Like we mentioned, Apple could just pull its cloud services from the UK. Anyone in the UK using iCloud, they'd lose access.
So no more backups to the cloud.
Yeah, that's right.
That's a big deal.
Huge inconvenience for a lot of people.
Right, like all those photos and documents.
Exactly. It shows the tough spot Apple is in.
Yeah.
Trying to balance the needs of users with what the government wants.
So they have to choose between protecting their users around the world or keeping their services in one country.
Right. And that choice, it's going to affect the whole tech industry.
You think so?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
If Apple gives in, other companies might feel pressured to do the same.
So then encryption is basically weakened everywhere.
That's what we're worried about.
It's a scary thought. But what about the legal stuff? Can Apple even fight this?
They can appeal, but there's a catch. Under UK law, they still have to comply with the demand while they're appealing.
What?
So even if they're fighting it in court, they might still have to give the government that backdoor access.
It seems so unfair.
It is.
And reading those Slashdot comments, it seems like a lot of users feel the same way.
Yeah.
One comment said that targeted access under the law, that's one thing.
Right.
But this blanket access, it's like a step towards authoritarianism.
Yeah, it's a valid concern for sure. It's about the whole debate about government surveillance and privacy,
Right. Where do we draw the line?
That's the million-dollar question. And I think a lot of people are feeling kind of helpless right now.
Like they have no control.
Exactly. But there are things we can do. We need to be more proactive about our digital privacy.
Okay, so less doom and gloom, more action.
That's it.
But where do we even start?
First, we got to understand the tools we have. There are cloud storage providers that really care about privacy and security.
Okay.
Some even offer end-to-end encryption. Not even they can access your data.
So like your own personal vault.
Exactly. And there are other tools like VPNs that can help hide your online activity.
So it's harder to be tracked.
That's the idea. And maybe it's time to think about what we're storing in the cloud in the first place.
But we need all of it backed up.
That's a great point. Maybe downsize our digital footprint. Be more careful about what we trust to these companies. #TTS, The Deep Dive, episode 2025-0207, part 3 of 3.
It sounds like we have options then, even if things are changing. But what about the bigger picture? Like, how do we fight for our digital rights, on a larger scale?
That's where collective action comes in.
Mm-hmm.
There are these organizations, the Electronic Frontier Foundation Access. Now, they're all about defending our privacy and pushing for stronger protections.
Okay.
Even just staying informed about their work, that can help.
So we're not just powerless in this. We can actually push back.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Don't underestimate your voice. Contact your elected officials. Let them know how you feel about these issues.
Support policies that are pro-encryption, pro-privacy.
Exactly. And don't forget about the tech companies themselves.
Oh, yeah, they have a role to play for sure.
They have a responsibility to protect their users and stand up to these overreaches by the government.
And we as consumers, we have power too, right?
Absolutely. We can support the companies that prioritize our privacy.
Yeah, vote with our wallets.
Exactly.
It's interesting how we've gone from this scary story about government overreach to like a more hopeful conversation about the tools and resources we have.
Sure, technology is always evolving, and so are the threats to our privacy. The situation with the UK, it's a wake-up call.
Yeah.
We can't take our digital rights for granted.
Okay, so to sum it all up for our listener, what are the key takeaways from this deep dive?
Well, first you got to understand that this demand from the UK, it's a potential turning point. It could weaken encryption all over the world and make our data less secure.
Second, be proactive about your own privacy, right?
Exactly. Look at different cloud storage providers, use tools like VPNs, and be careful about what you're storing online.
And finally, don't be afraid to speak up.
Yes. Support those organizations that are fighting for digital rights. Contact your officials. Make good choices about the tech companies you support.
We can't let governments or corporations decide the future of our digital lives for us. We have a say, and we have to use it to shape a world where privacy and security, they can coexist.
Absolutely. And, if this demand goes through, it could really stifle innovation in the tech industry.
How so?
Well, companies might be afraid to develop strong encryption if they know that governments can just force them to bypass it anyway.
It's definitely a lot to think about, but knowledge is power, right?
Absolutely.
And we hope this deep dive has given you the information you need to navigate this crazy world and make good decisions about your own digital life.
As we wrap up, I'll leave you with one last thought.
Yeah.
What would a world without strong encryption look like? What would that mean for you? Your privacy, your security, your freedom in a world that's becoming more and more digital.
It's a question worth pondering for sure. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep fighting for your digital rights. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.